We've got a special episode for you today. Got my buddy Daniel in the studio, well, at least online with us. And have you ever wondered what it's like to be a zookeeper? Chasing Wild podcast starts now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Chasing Wild podcast, your home for all the best content on conservation, wildlife, and adventure. Our mission is to bring the wild to you. We are your hosts, Jake Johnson, Dean Dudzik, and today we have a special guest, one of my best friends, Daniel Stolarek. Daniel, how you doing today?
How's it going? Doing well, man. How are you?
Good, good. Good to finally have you on the podcast. You've been, giving us advice from the beginning and talking, so pumped to have you on. Dean, how we doing today?
I'm doing good too. I'm also excited to have Daniel on. He's been a wanted target for a long time, so we're happy to have Daniel on today. We're going to talk some fun stuff about zoos, some skiing. We've got some other stuff planned, so this should be fun. And we haven't had a guest for a long time, so this will be fun to have another guest on. It's always fun having a third person on, so it'll be good.
It's probably been close to a year, honestly. But those are big shoes to fill, Daniel. How you feeling about it?
I'm happy you guys want to talk to me. And I was telling you a bit ago, like I'm hoping that my daily experience kind of lines up with what you guys are doing. We live in some different worlds work wise, but yeah, man, I'm excited to talk to you guys. And I've been hearing stories from Jake coming home from work. We lived together for a little while. And you come home with these stories. You knocked out a rhino once. You had to have the protective gloves on, and yeah, just can't wait to talk to you guys about some of the other crazy stuff you do.
Yeah, so the whole point of today having Daniel on is he is going to be kind of reflecting what it's like for normal people who might wonder what it's like to be a zookeeper. If people aren't aware, Dean and I are both zookeepers. We've worked together. We currently work separately at different zoos. But yeah, Daniel's kind of be the audience member, getting to interview us, ask us the questions. But what do you do, Daniel?
So I work in finance and accounting for an IT consulting firm. We do a lot of remediation for companies that get hacked. Do a lot of setup of cybersecurity infrastructure and things like that. And I do a lot of the back office administration and operation stuff. So it's not like the most glamorous thing in the world, and I definitely find myself daydreaming of getting out in the wild when I'm typing away at my computer for the fifth year in a row. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do. But in my free time, like I want to be outside. Colorado, I would say, is my happy place. Florida's my happy place. I don't like just if I go somewhere, like I don't like just, relaxing, like hiking, like fishing, camping, things of that nature. And yeah.
Yeah, no. And one reason that I've wanted to have you on the podcast for a while and want to do just episodes with you in general is because I would say, you're an adventure enthusiast, right? Like you like wildlife, you support conservation, but your thing is adventure. And we just went on your bachelor trip. We went to Michigan, and it was centered around skiing, and it was a ton of fun. We were Boyne Mountain, right?
Boyne, Michigan. Yes, sir. We were
Yeah.
chasing wild. We drove 5.5 hours in a 15-person van that I rented. And Dean, I don't know if Jake told you yet, but we were half a mile from the house I had rented, and dude, I was stoked for this place. It had ping pong, pool table, shuffleboard,
Fire
dartboard. It had
pit.
a balcony with a fire pit, and I
Hmm.
was really excited because I looked and the Northern Lights were supposed to be out that night. So I was like, okay, it's gonna be all of us guys. We're gonna be out smoking a cigar on the patio, like we're gonna have the fire going, we're gonna have the stars, no light pollution.
Yeah.
And a half mile from the place, the van gets stuck in the snow. And first first team building exercise of my groomsmen, some of them who are meeting each other for the first time
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
out in
lot
the
of us,
cold,
honestly.
is to push this van backwards like 2 miles out of this backcountry road that we thought we could make it through.
It wasn't
And
just a backcountry road, too. Like, as soon as we got into Michigan, it was like, it snowed the entire weekend we were there, which was honestly perfect for skiing.
Yeah.
But as soon as
I
we
was
got into this,
super stoked as we were driving past the mountain. I'm like,
yeah,
yes,
gorgeous.
this is what I needed.
But no, like no service, back road, sun's going down. It was like, okay, we got like an hour to figure this out. But we did. We got there. We had a great time. Only my second time skiing. Daniel, you've been a number of times.
Mhm.
Colorado,
Yeah,
like you said, is your spot.
yeah. But I was looking to you. I'm like, what's out here, man? Like, we're in Michigan. We're in the Midwest still. But like bears, we got wolves. What do we got out here? Like, sun was going down, man. It was it was a little sketchy.
There was too many people for wildlife to
We would
be
have
a
been fine.
concern. But you got your black bears out there. You got some stuff. So
Hmm.
I don't think
Daniel,
we're
do
quite
you
going. Go ahead.
sorry, Jake.
No, go
Daniel,
for it.
do you snowboard too, or do you just ski?
I have. And I've probably done it like 3 or 4 times. I'm decent. I ride an electric skateboard pretty much everywhere I go.
Oh,
When it's warm enough and it's not raining or snowing, I try not to drive the car places. I just take my board, and that translates to a snowboard.
yeah.
So I'm decent, but I just prefer skiing because I prefer speed a little bit more, and
Mm,
I've just been doing it for longer that I have a little bit more control. I can take on some more challenging routes.
yeah.
Yeah, this is what I gravitate to, but sometimes I'll switch it up.
Okay.
How about
Yeah.
you, man? Have you ever been?
Yeah, I've done both a little bit. Not like not every year or anything, but I've done skiing and snowboarding. And I get what you're saying. I think like if I'm going down a hill that has like pipes and stuff, I definitely would rather be on a snowboard than skis because
Hmm.
for me that's more fun when you've got like stuff to, get on and do some tricks. Not that I'm any good or
Reverse,
anything,
yeah.
but it's fun to try. And then yeah, for speed, definitely the skiing too. So yeah, it just depends. I like both of them.
Yeah, Jake's a speed demon too.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So, somewhat unintentional. We had a little, let's just call it liquid courage, and I was like, this is only my second time. The last time I went was with Daniel, like 4 or 5 years ago, and so we started on like the hill with tiny little kids, and then probably an hour later, I'm like, all right, I'm ready for a black, and it was like, took my first turn right, took my first turn left, didn't have enough width to make another turn, so it was just straight down. I'm going as fast as I can. I'm like, oh my gosh, like
The
I'm
hill was
gonna
called
freaking fall.
it's called nosedive. And
Yeah,
Jake,
it was a nosedive, but it was
Did you stay
exhilarating.
up?
Stayed
he
up, yeah.
did, bro. I
Can
watched
you
the whole way.
do you know how to
I
can
wasn't
you
sure.
stop?
I can, but I was like, it was such a steep and narrow hill that once I hit that second turn, there was no stopping. Like it was just like, all right, downhill it is, and because it's going so fast, so it was either
Yeah.
tumble like there or just hit it, and I hit it and stayed up. But it's a ton of
Hmm.
fun. No, that was a great bachelor trip, Daniel. Honestly, we went whitewater rafting on mine, skiing on yours. I mean, adventure sports, being outdoors is something that we bonded over
That was what I
forever.
wanted. Some guys go to Scottsdale and go to bars and stuff. I wanted to be out on the mountain, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice.
and during COVID, I mean, I was out in Colorado. I don't know if the government was subsidizing flights or what, but I was getting round trips on Frontier and Spirit for $33 round trip. So I had a buddy out in Denver area, Aurora, and I would just fly out there like every 2 weeks. And I had my skis out there, and that was a great. I mean, obviously those years sucked for a lot of reasons, but I got my money's worth on that. I
That's
missed
great.
that, man. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a fun experience. And we're not doing the full nature news segment this week, but something I did just see recently is that a lot of ski resorts are shutting down due to climate change. If they're not able to
Really?
keep up with creating the artificial snow, which a lot of places are investing in, like that technology to make it, but
Hmm.
if you don't have enough like base of snow, even the artificial snow isn't enough. So like I was reading a lot of skiing resorts are closing down, especially in places like Europe and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
which I think is, it doesn't matter if you're a conservationist or you're an adventure enthusiast, you're a wildlife person, like it hits everyone, or you're just in finance, whatever, it doesn't matter. So that's sad though, it
Yeah.
hits all areas.
Dude, I'm terrified for not terrified, but I really want to do whatever I can to, promote clean energy. How do we get out of this predicament that we're in as a species where we're killing the planet? I don't want the, you know, glaciers to melt in, Antarctica or Alaska before I get to see them.
Yeah,
Like
they're
or my kids
melting.
get to see them. Yeah,
They're
and
melting.
it's a real issue. Um,
But you
yeah,
know what? We're not a doom and gloom podcast. There's a lot going on in the world, but I think our goal is to just, get
yeah.
people excited about it. I think the more that you go out in nature and care about it, the more that, you're willing to protect it. So,
Hmm.
we ready to jump in? Do some
Yeah,
zookeeping talk?
yeah, dude. I got a ton of questions for you guys.
All right, cool. So, Dean and I, like I said, we both work at zoos. We both work at AZA accredited zoos. So, Association of Zoos and Aquariums. An AZA accreditation, basically, if you're going to look at it very simply, is like a good zoo that's upholding the highest animal welfare standards. AZA is its own nonprofit organization that basically comes to these organizations every 3 to 5 years. You have to do a whole big audit. They come and check everything you're doing, from the vet staff to the guest operations to the animal care and welfare, everything. And if you pass their certification, you maintain that status for the next 3 to 5 years. If you do not pass, you lose your accreditation, and then you have to basically fight to get it back. So, for the people who are out there, most people, it's if you're going to go to a Tiger King zoo, that's not accredited, right? Like that's a roadside zoo. That's somewhere where they're not putting the animals first. They're putting the excitement, the thrill, the guest experience first. And then your AZA accredited institutions are going to be, your Chicagoland area zoos, your Cincinnati Zoo, stuff like that. Shed Aquarium, Georgia Aquarium. There's 253, sorry, accredited institutions across 12 countries, and they host 2 million guests per year. 2 million guests per year. It's a lot of people. And another fact is that they don't just work with the zoos to make sure that they're maintaining high animal welfare and care, but they also are super invested in how these institutions are impacting conservation out in the wild, which is a big part of what we do as well. And in 2024, $341 million were invested into field conservation projects by AZA members. So it's a big impact. It's a big thing. AZA is the big umbrella, and within it falls these 253 accredited institutions, 2 of which Dean and I work at. So, that's just kind of the preface getting into it. But we both work with primates currently. And, Daniel, why don't you start with your first question? What you got?
I mean, well, because I'm in the finance side a little bit, and you're talking about how these members donate. So are they do they get funding from large donors? Is it just a combination of that and ticket sales? That's how they're able to give, or where does the money typically come from that they're funneling towards conservation?
Dean?
Yeah, all the above for sure.
Hmm.
Not all zoos do ticket sales, but the vast majority do, especially for the big AZA ones. So that definitely contributes. And then those large donors are a really, really big part
Hmm.
of supporting zoos financially. They also zoos also can get their own form of revenue, not only through like ticket sales, but also through like selling merchandise and stuff. But I would say maybe the majority, and I don't have exact numbers, of the financial support, it comes from donors. It's a really, really big part of it. And for
Hmm.
example, you walk around a zoo and you'll see people's names on plaques, maybe on the outside of a building or outside an exhibit. Generally, those are going to be an individual donor, a family of a donor. And so basically they funded that building or that exhibit. And so, to market, they'll have like a plaque of the name of the person or family. So that's just an example of how private donors support zoos. So it's really,
Hmm.
really big part of it on the financial side.
Yeah,
And and
oh, go ahead, Daniel.
no, no, you go ahead first.
I was going to say the private donors are a huge way that zoos get um, the big capital projects, right? Like your new exhibits or your exhibit that's pretty old that needs some like serious
Hmm.
remodeling. Like they'll look to donors in those times where like you need a huge capital investment at that time. And then a lot of the day to day stuff is managed by, I mean, the donors are still always a thing, and there's donors everywhere, and they have ways of getting, donations just from normal people.
Hmm.
But like the day to day, like ticket sales and attractions and stuff like that, like animal feeding, stuff like that, is going to go into maintaining the overall zoo aesthetic and look and welfare.
And you said 2 million visitors a year, right? To
Hmm.
these, and have you guys seen like an upward trend in visitors or kind of a downward trend as like years have gone by? Do people still like go as much as they used to, or what do you think about that?
I would say you have to be more creative. I would say people are looking to go, but sometimes you have to give them a reason to go. Or like, we're not going to talk exactly. We don't associate with our zoos on this podcast. We've said
Hmm.
that before, just because this is our product, not theirs. So we're not going to say, you know, which zoo we work for. But something that my zoo does is these like zoo concerts, right? And so it's something to get the demographic of people like yourself who may not be just like, I'm going to go to the zoo today, to come to the zoo. So I would say from like we have annual like meetings regularly to and they go over those things. I would say it's a little bit higher right now than it was the past couple of years, but they're working very creatively with social media and guest experiences and all those things to make that happen. It's not just like the zoo is the zoo. People are gonna come. Like you gotta work for it.
Yeah, and that was going to be my segue to my next question is like, are you seeing these zoos doing, more creative marketing, using short form media? And like, I personally, like when I'm scrolling, like I'm looking for, interesting animal videos or things that I might not know, um, just as a normal person that you guys might be super knowledgeable on, um, because you've studied this and you're around it every day. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, Jake and I, as keepers, we're not directly, well, sometimes we are actually helping out with some of the
Yeah.
social media side of it, but generally there will be like social media teams at zoos or like a marketing sort of team. And they will create content, social media over the past decade or so. Has
mhm.
become a really, really big thing for promoting businesses and promoting zoos also. So yeah, that's a really big thing. Nowadays we have like reels and stuff, like really short clips to catch people's attention. And like Jake was mentioning, when you get somebody's attention, you're hoping that that's going to turn into a visitor for the zoo. And then
Yeah.
also that reminds me of membership at zoos is really
Hmm.
big as well, and that's also important for supporting the zoos financially. So zoos try to incentivize people to join a membership program because one, there's money, and then two, it provides like a good package to attract people to join that membership program and to get people coming back over and over again. And you're hoping, like a business, that when somebody keeps returning, they're also going to put money into it in other forms, like through merchandise, through donations, etc. So memberships are a really big part of that as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just the fact that like I was younger, just in general. Like 7 years ago, I was an intern, seasonal, all that. I've been full time for like 5 years now, but I feel like there's been such an expansion of like marketing and business and everything. Like I feel, and again, maybe it always was, and I just wasn't privy to that information because I was new to the field. But it feels like there's a lot of new positions opening up across those sectors, and I think some people in animal care and programs, which is what we are, ACP, get frustrated with that because we're like, the animals are the reason we're here, and it is, that's they are the most important part of the zoo because it's not,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, they are more important than the guest. But being able to market and get people to come to the zoo to see the incredible animals that you work with and care about them, like the reason I became a zookeeper in general was because of my hometown zoo, and Steve Irwin. So, but
Hmm.
yeah, definitely a big push with that for sure.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question was what got you guys into this? Like, was it from a very, very young age that you were like, you just loved animals or you loved a specific animal or just wanted to follow in the footsteps of someone? Um, or what
Starting
was
off
it
Dean,
yeah.
Yeah, I think Jake and I are going to have a lot of crossover and
a lot
similarities
of
here
similarities.
because
Yeah.
we're big Steve Irwin fans, obviously. So that was a huge inspiration. Also, sharing the same like hometown zoo. We're from the same general area. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, I was always involved in animals since I was a young age. I like always remember being fascinated with snakes since I can remember. So like going to San Diego Zoo, which is a really good one, and getting like a rubber Amazon tree boa like toy and
Mm-hmm.
carrying that around everywhere I went was like a big memory of zoos back then. And then Jake actually just touched on this, like a big part of what I do in terms of like my impact, or what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of like the fulfillment I get is having people see the animals that I take care of, and that I care about. Because what Jake and I talk about a lot in this podcast is like people have to experience things in order to care and understand
Mm-hmm.
more about them sometimes. So that's a big deal for me as well. Um, I think that's mostly it. Jake, do you want to talk about your side?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with your parents, you know, what they and I say this because now that I am a parent of a almost 2-year-old daughter, bringing her to the zoo is my absolute favorite thing to do. Whether my wife is we're off work together or I'm by myself going solo, it's such a great place to bring a child because it means everything to them. You know, we kind of lose sight of what seeing an exotic animal like a rhino or elephant or gorilla looks like, but yeah, when I was a young kid, I mean, my parents brought me all the time to the zoo, tons of pictures. You know, I wrote on the, what do you want to be when you're older? It was like a zookeeper or a football player. It's very basic, you know, like those are the things. It was, I was going to be a zoo, something in animals or
Nice.
an athlete. But yeah, that and Steve Irwin. I mean, I've got the poster that we've showed in my office, not hanging yet, but yeah, so young
Do you
age
have a
experiences.
Do you have a favorite experience that you've had since you've been doing it that's like really cemented your love for it?
From the working side of it.
Yeah, like anything. Like I mean, I brought up the rhino one,
Hmm.
before. But I know you guys both work with primates. Have you guys like kind of? Sorry, I'll let you
Start
answer.
no, start it off, Dean.
Yeah, let me go because I think this, to answer your question, this memory is actually it involves Jake
Oh,
because
sweet.
I think we've mentioned this before. Jake was my intern mentor at the zoo when I was starting out, and I think the memory that stands out to me always will be my first time meeting orangutans face to face. And I think that was probably with Jake that I had that experience. Anyway, that's something that always stands out to me because seeing the animals from like the exhibit side is really cool, but then getting to see them really intimately and up close behind the scenes is totally different. So for me, it would probably be meeting orangutans for the first time.
Yeah, I remember when I first started, I that we had a, and she's still at our zoo. We had a baby gorilla. She was 3 days old when I started, so I'll always know how old she is or how long I've been there because we're tied. But and my first in when you're an intern, you work. You know, every zoo's different, so it's not the same everywhere. But like at our zoo, when you're an intern, you work alongside a full-time keeper. You don't have a lot of responsibilities, especially when it comes to the animal side of things. Maybe you do diets and stuff like that or dishes, but you're basically there to shadow, learn, and observe. And day one, walking in there with my like Adidas shoes, you know, hair done nice, and all of a sudden just like, whoa, face to face with a silverback gorilla and a whole troop of gorillas with a baby was just like, it was stunning. So yeah, I think seeing the animals for the first time is the biggest wow moment. And then the thing that keeps you there is the relationships you build. We both are, you know, fortunate enough to work with primates, which are intelligent animals, especially great apes like gorillas and orangutans and chimps, which we worked with all three of those. And when you, like, when I started, we had a 4-year-old male orangutan. I almost said his name. Can't say his name. But anyways, we had a 4-year-old male orangutan who, like, when I was an intern, I couldn't interact with, but like I wanted to so bad. I was like, this guy. He was just like a little kid, you know. It's kind of how it felt. And now we have been through so much working together, and like now I'm a primary orangutan keeper, and he's 11 now, and having worked with him for all those years and getting to watch him start to mature and grow and all the experiences he's been through, and now they have a new outdoor exhibit and everything. So like those relationships you build over time are so special because very few people can have that with an animal, especially like I said with a great ape, because they are so intelligent. And like if I come in my street clothes to the zoo, the great apes recognize me, like
Mhm.
they know who I am in my street clothes. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Jake, you've talked to me before, at length about, the benefits, because I think that like you're a normal person there are some people that think that zoos are detrimental to
Yeah,
their
a lot of people.
mental health or whatever, but I know you've talked to me a little bit about like how they actually benefit them in the long run, and some of these are rescues and everything like that. Can you talk a little bit about like the importance um, of that and like how it contributes to their overall conservation as a species and all that?
Yeah, so and this ties greatly into the, like, are zoos accredited or not? Because when they are accredited, you have to follow and abide by a certain set of rules. And over the course of even my short career, 7 years of being a zookeeper, the rules have changed. They advance as we learn more. The more that we know, the more that we're capable of, the more that we're expected and required to do. So zoos are often looked at as good or bad, and it's just not like that. I mean, the reality is the way zoos started, like a long, long time ago, that was bad. You've got animals who are coming from private collections of people who are owning just exotic animals to own them because that's what people did back then. Like they didn't
Hmm.
have TV and video games. They were like, I'm super rich. I'm gonna go buy a lion and we're gonna have it shipped to me.
Pablo
That kind of
Escobars of
thing.
the world.
Exactly. But basically, that was the foundation of how the zoo started. But once you have an animal out of the wild, there are circumstances where you can reacclimate them to the wild if they've not been habituated to human care. But if they are habituated to human care and you were to go drop them in the wild, the chances are that they will not survive. So,
Mhm.
what has transpired over basically over a century now, is learning more about how, when we have these animals out of the wild, what we can do to they're an ambassador for the wild species, right? The orangutans that I work with are going to inspire people who come to the zoo to know and care about what an orangutan is, right? Like, would you have that same connection with an elephant, an orangutan, a gorilla, a zebra if you had never seen one? Zoos at the very surface level provide that inspiration for people in general, kids, adults, whoever, to care about these animals in the wild. So that's the first step. But then, just talking about like the benefits and things like that, like you don't just get to be a zookeeper by like applying one day and jumping in. Like, it's required that you have a 4-year degree in some sort of science field. So I have a zoology degree, Dean Biology, right?
Yeah, environmental science slash
Environmental science.
biology.
So,
Yeah.
so you got to have a 4-year degree in some sort of science related field. So like you're not just doing this on a whim, and you're doing it because you care. And then basically everything you're doing is to make sure these animals live a natural life, right? Something that would simulate what they would have in the wild. So enrichment, providing them with things that would cause them to naturally forage in the wild or naturally search for shelter or things like that. So everything that we do is designed to provide them with a healthy diet that reflects what they would have in the wild, to live a life that would be normal to what they'd have in the wild, because they don't have the opportunity to live in the wild. And the alternative is, zoos don't have them, and then you have you could go down that road. But I like to go over a really, like, I work with a group of juvenile spider monkeys right now. They're about to be 3 years old, and we have 5 adult spider monkeys. Well, these juvenile spider monkeys were poached in Mexico, wherever it
Uh,
was, and basically their mothers were killed. They were all shoved in a duffel bag, 5 of them, and they were going to be sold to be a pet or to be, whatever the poacher was going to do with it, but selling them for money. And they were confiscated at the border. And when they got confiscated, you have two options for those animals at that point. They can either be humanely euthanized because they're infants who have their mothers have been killed, like there's no way to bring them back to the wild, or you can bring them to a zoo or sanctuary, right? Like those are the only two options for that animal. And so instead of the animal being humanely euthanized, they went to a zoo, they eventually came to our zoo, and now they get to live with a group of adults who kind of act like their, parents
Surrogate.
in a way. Yeah, surrogate, exactly. And now they're happy as can be. They're all together. They're almost 3 now. We got them when they were just about a year old. And they get to inspire people to, care about spider monkeys, and myself included, and my daughter included. So
Yeah.
there's so many different angles you can look at it. But to what I tell people, there's a lot of people who hate zoos. Is like, do your research or ask someone, because it's so much more layered than is it good or bad.
Yeah, man. Like I feel like that clears up a lot of misconceptions. Um,
But there are bad zoos out there, and that's the thing. Like
mhm.
that also, like when you watch Tiger King, that is the extreme of bad zoos. But there are zoos that look like good zoos that are also bad zoos. And that's where that AZA accreditation really comes into play. I'm
So
sure there are some parks in Wisconsin Dells that are. I know there are some that are accredited, but that just are there to service people instead of the animals. But like
mhm.
everything that we do, it's animal first. Jump in, Dean.
Yeah, for sure. And then another aspect to answer your question, Daniel, something that Jake and I wanted to touch on was like species survival programs.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big part of that's a big program that AZA zoos participate in, and basically it's managing the captive populations of generally
Endangered.
endangered species or species that aren't doing so well in the wild. And they can be all the way to the extreme of species in zoos where their wild population is extinct, so they don't exist in the wild anymore, and they can only be found in zoos. A good example of this at a zoo that I've worked at before is Panamanian golden frogs, for example.
Mm-hmm.
They're a frog species from Central America, and they're actually extinct in the wild. A fungus, an amphibian fungus, wiped out their wild population, and now today they only exist in zoos, to my knowledge, right now at least. And then obviously the plan, hopefully one day, is to get like a robust enough captive population to where you can start reintroducing animals.
Mhm.
And again, a good example of this is Mexican wolves,
Mm-hmm.
are a good example of reintroduction species. So basically, what a number of AZA zoos in the States are doing is they have these captive breeding programs, and then they're advised by it's called a TAG, so a taxon advisory group, and they will help facilitate which animals to reintroduce into the wild. And that's a fairly successful program that's been going on for a number of years now. So these captive wolves are being reintroduced into Mexico. And that's an endangered species, but a really cool program. And that's one that Jake and I have both not like primarily participated in, but like helped out with at the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
They'll, they need help rounding up these animals, because another interesting thing is we don't want to imprint these animals by being captive, and meaning that we don't want them to rely on people the
Yep.
same way as like some of the other zoo animals would. So we want to keep them as wild as possible, basically, so that they're capable of surviving in the wild when and if they're reintroduced. So there's some cool programs like that it's like the closest thing that Jake and I do to like real hard conservation.
Yeah,
And
infield. Mm-hmm.
yeah, in-field conservation, exactly, which AZA zoos are required to have some sort of in-field conservation. But yeah, anyway, that's another really important sort of aspect I always share with people when they're like questioning the morality or whatever of zoos, which is good to do because, like Jake said, there are bad zoos out there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but the
for
good
sure.
ones do. They do participate in in-field conservation, and they're helping promote and conserve species that are either not doing well or may even already be extinct in the wild. So for those reasons, it's really important, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
And that for that Mexican gray wolf one, it's really interesting because the reason that like what they're doing there is their genetic diversity, because they are so endangered, is so reduced that off like you're having a lot of wolves that are basically incest because the genetic pool is so low, and that reduces the survival rate,
Right.
so exponentially. So what zoos like the one I currently work at do is they do a foster swap. So basically, our the zoos that or sorry the wolves that we work with will have a litter of pups around the same time that a wild pair would have a litter of pups, and they work hand in hand with infield partners. It's not just like, we're going rogue and doing this. It's a very monitored project, and they swap the pups. So the pups who were in the wild come to, the zoo, right? And then the pups that were in the zoo go to the wild, and that increases the gene pool so that wild population can then be bolstered and grow. And, reintroducing new genes into a population is something that people honestly don't even really think about. So yeah, we have a number of Guam kingfisher is another one extinct in the wild. They're
Mm.
reintroducing them like right now as we speak, and
Hmm.
sometimes they send keepers, which is really cool. But yeah, it's always animal first, and for the animals that can go back to the wild, it's very important that they do, and those projects are huge. So yeah, it was a good one, Dean.
Yeah.
That's
And the
incredible.
and the genetics is is a huge part of managing these populations, like Jake said, especially for these more endangered species. Like any other animal, there's only a finite number of individuals, and some animals are never going to be taken out of the wild again. Um, so managing their populations at like the genetic level is really important. So like these advisory groups will swap this animal for that animal in order to like diversify that finite gene pool. That's really important to like maintain a robust, healthy captive population that may never be replenished by wild animals ever again. So
Yeah,
that's really important.
the SSP is basically matchmaking. So they look at,
Yeah.
like, let's just go to orangutans, for example. They look at the orangutans at AZA accredited institutions, right? Especially ones that are like in the US for each other, that are close to each other. But they look at the gene pool within AZA accredited institutions, and they say what makes sense, right? Does it make sense with this individual would match with this to increase the genetic diversity? So if you're thinking like, how do zoos get new animals? Like, why wouldn't zoos have just fizzled out by now? Well, we found a really important reason for zoos, right? To inspire the public, to do a lot of understanding for the animals. Oh, and that's another big thing is research. So like, there's a lot of learning that you can do from these animals when they are in an environment that you can control or see them at. It's hard to study animals in the wild, especially like super endangered and elusive animals. So like, you can learn a lot about these animals, non-invasive research. You're not picking them up and poking and prodding them, just more observant research, just watching their natural behavior and stuff like that. But yeah, zoos do a lot of matchmaking. So like, if an institution has an adult male that's would be ready to breed and is genetically valuable, let's say it's a gorilla, then they would might swap gorillas to increase that gene pool. So it's a lot of zoo matchmaking, and that's how we get, I don't want to say get, but that's how you get to work with new animals a lot of the time, is either through birth or through different institutions, but all extremely regulated and overseen by AZA and the SSP programs.
Yeah, it's incredible to hear about all these. I would have never known about any of these things that they're doing behind the scenes. And so you guys have talked about like all the like great things that these AZA accredited ones are doing. Like, are there ones that like are there like establishments? Obviously, the roadside type. You don't
Hmm.
want to support those because those are just all entertainment based. I always wondered about like aquariums. Like, are those things that like are good to support? Like, are they doing those similar types of programs, or are some of them? Because
Yeah.
you see the blackfish documentaries and all that, and you're like, dude, like, I went to SeaWorld as a kid. Like, was I contributing to this problem? Um,
So, Association of Zoos and Aquariums, I guess we've limited our talk to zoos today because,
mhm.
or so far, because, we work at zoos, but aquariums are under that umbrella. Like Shed
Yeah,
Aquarium is an AZA accredited organization. Georgia Aquarium is accredited. So that's part of the, what did I say, 253 that are
God,
accredited. But yeah, there are ones, I think SeaWorld is accredited and they do great work. Another big thing is I haven't seen the Blackfish documentary. I know it was controversial. I can't speak to it
Mhm.
exactly, but another thing is when you have an animal like that and it can't just return back to the wild, ultimately you have to it's going to live out its days. So maybe that orca, again, I am not speaking on it with any
Yeah,
kind of
and
knowledge, but
again, I don't know anything. Like I'm just just a layperson that's got these questions that I'm curious about.
yeah.
Um,
No,
but
no, but that's true, and that's a big part of what AZA does is they're learning about these animals, and there are animals that are determined like, hey, they should just not be in zoos because it's not dynamic enough for their mental being. Like zoos, a lot of zoos used to have elephants, and less zoos have elephants now, especially African elephants because they're big and they traverse a lot. So, in order to be able to house an elephant at your zoo, which is a huge guest draw, right? It's going to do a lot for people coming in. You have to have an incredibly dynamic habitat that allows for an extremely mentally stimulating environment, and not just like constantly, but like being able to switch exhibits a lot and do a lot of movement. So um, those are all things that kind of contribute to it. But back in the day, even 30 years ago, everywhere had elephants because we didn't know as much about their cognitive abilities, and stuff like that. So the more we learn, the more we grow, and honestly, the more fun our job gets because it's becoming more and more cerebral each year.
hmm maybe kind of slightly moving away from zoos a little bit.
Yeah,
Like when I've been going out, and I recently went to Colorado. Me and my brother and sister hiked Quandary Peak. I'm on the lookout now for as much wildlife as I can because I know you and I have talked about like, that inner Pokemon child in us to be like,
wild trek. Yep.
looking for.
Mm-hmm.
We saw mountain goats, we saw marmot, we saw foxes and you know awesome birds. And are there ways that people can get like involved like out in nature, like, and then like interact with conservate, like did you see any like methods that people are able to support conservation and wildlife without you know necessarily donating money or something like that, like.
Dean, if you want to jump in first, since I just went, feel free.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I mean, first came to mind was, you know, when you go to a national park or state park, you are paying generally like an entry fee. And so that alone is supporting conservation. But it's such a great question because that's something that Jake and I are brainstorming a lot is like how can that everyday person taking a hike or a walk get involved in conservation? And it's not the most tangible thing, but sometimes just your enthusiasm and like getting people involved is conservation itself because you're getting people to care about a place or an animal, etc. And that alone is conservation, at least in my eyes. So it's a really excellent question. I don't know if you've thought of anything, Jake. Well,
Yeah,
you've been thinking.
no, I think a big thing is there are a lot of organizations out there, big and small, that do the things that are required. Right? They'll set up community events where, like, we've done them in Pat. You were part of one, Daniel, where we went and remember we went to Kankakee River and we did a big
Hmm.
trash cleanup, and then
Yeah.
we did it in the city, and I did a 30-day campaign. So like those are types of things that you can do. You can join other community events where like maybe they're planting, you know, pollinator friendly plants and stuff like that. I know that's not up your alley. I know you. So, and that's honestly why I started, the Dreamers Initiative, and now we're having Chasing Wild podcast is because I'm the same way as like I'm very invested in conservation, but I want to make this something that not just people who are super into science do. And I
Right.
think one of the things that we're working on is a game called Wild Trek and has a lot of similarities to Pokemon. And basically, the goal is to basically make a huge Pokédex kind of thing, Trek Dex, where you go out and you photograph or you just see these animals and then you can put them into like, hey, I've seen this. It's kind of like a life list, so it's like a kind of collector's mindset. So you'd go out and let's say you saw a marmot and you knew exactly what species it was.
Hmm.
Then you could be like photographed, boom, like check, like one of a lot, one of a lot of vertebrate species. But in things like that, just kind of gamifying it, I think nowadays, even myself, like you kind of need a reason to get out sometimes, which is sad, but we're so busy and life is what it is. So, making kind of challenges and group experiences where you can go on these trips and maybe, collecting how many national parks you've gone to, or
Hmm.
collecting, like I said, how many animals you've seen, how many oceans you've been to, how many mountains you've seen, like glaciers, things like that. So we're doing that currently with Wild Trek, and I think it's a big endeavor. And there are apps like it. Like you could download the app iNaturalist, and it
Okay.
will do something to that level. It doesn't quite gamify it as much, but it's a good app. All trails, you can kind of see the trails that you've been on or go explore, and there's communities on there. So I think the biggest thing is, like Dean said, getting out and getting involved. Because if you start going out, you're going to start caring more. If you start meeting people, you're going to find like minded individuals who care about something else. And the more we learn, the more willing we are to do something about it, big or
Hmm.
small. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Wild Trek is going to be I, something that you're going to love. I mean, we were both, Daniel and I were neighbors growing up, and I can vividly remember going to each other's house, playing Pokemon all the time. So it has a lot of that energy to it.
Mm. Sounds fun, man. And now that like, I'm an adult, I got a little bit of money and like can kind of start to see some of these things. I've been trying, recently. Been to Mount Rainier National Park. I know we're talking about maybe Yellowstone or something like that.
Yeah,
What was
Olympic. We
Olympic?
just booked
Yeah.
it. We just booked it.
Woo! Yeah,
Yeah.
man. I'm super stoked.
Um,
Um,
but like think about that in just terms of, you look back one day and you have this adventure profile, like you have your social media profile, right? Like you have all of your pictures that you had, your people you were friends with, stuff like that. Well, instead of that, you have all of the places you've been, the experiences you've had out in nature, the challenges you've completed, the conservation impact you've had. So it's that kind of energy where you're just basically going to be able to kind of catalog your outdoor side.
mhm.
And Dean, I think you were just what it was really exciting because we kind of declared like the beginning of Wild Trek to be March 1st, 2026. So like it has officially started. And you sent me the first photo we talked about in the last pod, and that you were just in Florida. You saw a few more animals. What'd you see?
Yeah, I think the one I sent you was an alligator. That was like the big target species for me. And what's fun about doing this is I know Jake can relate, and maybe you can also, Daniel, is like when you go to a place, you might have like your target species in mind. So going to Florida, an alligator was like top priority for me. Not that it's really difficult or anything.
It can be
I
based on where
I
you
only
are.
found one, ironically.
Yeah.
Usually they're really easy to find. Maybe it's a time of year, the location I was at, whatever. But yeah, I saw alligators. I got a cool picture. I'll send Jake and he can put it up of a bunch of turkey vultures roosting in. It was like a pine forest, I believe, but it was really cool. And I think I'm kind of actively thinking like another idea for Wild Trek is to document like animal events. So, for example, like
Mm,
sea turtle nesting or
great
bird
migration.
nesting,
Mm.
migrations. I think that's something really cool that we could work up. So, yeah, we have a lot of ideas, and also saw gopher tortoise for the first time.
Nice.
For people that aren't familiar, it's a really iconic um, tortoise species in Florida, and they're I get a little bit sciencey. They're called a keystone species. So
Mm,
basically,
mm-hmm.
they engineer the ecosystem to support other species. They get their name gopher tortoise because they dig these really big burrows, like a gopher would, dig into the earth, and they support all sorts of snake, rodent species, etc. And that's why they're called a keystone species because other species rely on them
Mm.
to survive. So seeing a gopher tortoise was awesome. I actually saw that before I even saw an alligator, which I definitely didn't expect, but that was cool. And seeing like a species for the first time is really special, and I think that's a big inspiration for Wild Trek as well as like seeing something for the first time is always a special moment. So
Yeah, I can relate to. So we did this Quandary Peak, which is a 14er, and I've done hikes before, and so like I was super confident doing this thing, and I was like, We're gonna kick this thing's butt. And dude, the last 200 or 200 feet, I mean, it was war every step. I'm battling myself, like can't get a breath. I think you can only get like 60% of the oxygen at sea level up that high. But like as I'm like dying, like this like group of mountain goats walks like 5 feet from me. And it was just like such a cool moment that I was like, I earned that. Like
Yeah.
I made it
For
up to
sure.
their spot. I've got some opportunities coming up. We're going down to Florida. So I'm getting married in April, but we're going down. Yeah, we're going down in a couple weeks to try the cake, and she's gonna do her hair. She's gonna test the hairstylist and all that. Um, and her parents live in a place called Babcock Ranch, which is really cool. It's like this community they're building. It's self-sustaining with I think there's like I don't know how many acres of solar panels, but like they power themselves. And they live on a golf course. I'm gonna get an alligator day one. I mean, they're literally out back in there.
Dude, take a
Um,
picture. It could be
but
your number one.
I'm definitely going to Google, some species to look for around that area and see
Mhm.
if I can catch a few, so to
Nice.
speak.
Yeah, man.
Um,
If you
and
do,
then
send me
my
in.
honeymoon's going to be in Hawaii. So yeah, I'm going to be looking. I'm going to have like probably at least 30 or 40 species in there. I'm going to be way ahead of you guys.
Hey,
Um,
there's animals
Yeah.
around here too, even if it's just a gray squirrel. You
fair
gotta get
enough.
your Pidgeys and you gotta get your rat-a-tat, like all those.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait till I
But
go to Australia. I'm gonna smoke you guys.
Oh
You guys
yeah.
will
So
never catch
where
up
are
to
you going
me.
in Australia?
I'm going with my mom and my brother for 2 weeks, end of April into early May. So I'm super super excited
yeah,
for it. It's
that's
definitely a once in a
elite.
lifetime trip.
Like flying
Hmm.
into Sydney, and then are you like going out into the bush, or are you just like,
We're actually flying in and out of Brisbane
uh-huh,
because we don't want to spend any time in Sydney. We want to like do
gotcha.
outdoor stuff. So we're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
fly in and out of Brisbane, see Australia Zoo, of course, and
SeaWorld
then
Zoo. Hmm.
spend the majority of the trip in Port Douglas, Cairns area, which is like North Queensland, where the Daintree rainforest is. We're gonna spend some time there. The Great Barrier Reef, gonna snorkel that
Wow,
too.
dude.
And then also do a few days in Darwin to see like Kakadu National Park. So yeah, it's
That's a
gonna be
bucket
awesome.
list for sure.
We gotta have the
Absolutely.
game. We gotta have like good parameters around it then, so you don't so like you get the full experience of it while you're there. Because
Right.
that is a once in a lifetime kind of trip. I mean, hopefully more than once, but
You're
it's
right.
not easy to get to.
Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Super
That's gonna be
excited.
so cool, man. I'm still so jealous. That's awesome. It's on my
Yeah.
bucket list.
Yep.
Uh,
Definitely.
all right. So last thing on the zookeeping, I want to ask you, Daniel, if you got to work with a group of animals, we both work with primates. What kind of animals would you want to work with? And this is on the
I mean,
spot, so you got to think about it.
I gravitate towards marine life. I
Yep.
love, dolphins, incredibly intelligent. Turtles are really cool. Beyond that, maybe an elephant. I don't know. I guess I just gravitate towards the species that are like really really smart because those
Hmm.
just fascinate me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Um, if I can sit there and watch an elephant paint, that'd probably be peak.
Yeah. I mean, that would be
It's,
a good guest experience moment for sure.
yeah,
All right. So pachyderms or maybe cetaceans.
yeah, yeah.
If you're a dolphin guy, you got to be super charismatic, which you are, but because they do a lot of the um, the shows and stuff like that where they have the
Hmm.
people come and they're actually those shows actually if people think they're good or bad they're great, they're extremely mentally stimulating for those
Hmm.
animals and they're all training sessions. So like if
Yeah.
you watch closely what the trainers are doing, they have a bucket of fish and they're asking those animals to do a behavior, and then when they do it they come back and they reward them. So like those animals are working like their brain,
Hmm.
right, to
Yeah.
do that. And a lot of what we do too with training is extremely important because like when COVID happened, we vaccinated our animals. So for the animals that were like hand injection trained, you work that up over time. They would willingly present their shoulder. You'd be able to inject them with the vaccine, and that
Hmm.
was it. Like, so training is a huge part of what we do. But
Yeah.
sorry, sidetrack, tangent. There's a lot of zookeeping stuff, but
I
that's cool,
think
man.
that I think that seeing that as a kid is what kind of gave me that love for animals, and I think it's like really really important for for kids if they're able to be exposed to that at a young age, so that
For
Definitely.
they're
sure.
yeah, man, it's
Okay,
very
so now
formative.
we talked about a little wild trek. We talked zookeeping. Just before we close the show, let's go over our music to moments. So the prompt for this week was you are going down a green run. It can be green or blue, right? Not black because that's a little intense. But you're going down like a scenic, can be a little adventurous at times. Let's say like a long green or blue run. So maybe like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. You're in Colorado, something like that. One of those long ones. And for people who don't ski, green is like the more easy, but it can have a little bit of challenge to it. Blue is, your intermediate, and then black is typically your hard and intense. So, green or blue run, 30, 45 minutes, and you get 3 songs to listen to. So you're not going to be listening to songs the whole time, but you've got 3 songs that you can have on. Dean, why don't you start us off?
Okay. My first song is kind of a niche song. I'm sure you guys aren't familiar, but it's called Hyperdrive by Devin Townsend. Um, I'm not really sure how to describe it. I'm not very good at this, but it's got like good tempo, good something to get some momentum while you're
Yeah, a little
skiing.
rhythm.
So
Mm-hmm.
right. So my first song would be that, and then I also go with "Are You Gonna Be My Girl" by Jet. I like that song. I feel like that'd be a good
Dun,
song
dun,
to
dun, 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 that one?
yeah
Yeah.
to ski down. And then my last one is "Face Down" by Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. It's kind of like a punk song. And like my inspiration for that was my brother and I used to play this MX versus ATV game on PS3, and that was like one of the hit songs on that game. So it's got
Nice.
like that sort of like ATV skiing,
Outdoor
you know,
adventure vibe.
yeah, sort of outdoor vibe. So those would be my 3 songs.
Very cool. Love it. Daniel?
So, I mean, with the parameters you gave, like it's a green run, like it's a long one, it's kind of chill. I'm not like just absolutely redlining it. Um,
It's not the nosedive.
there's a band that my brother loves. They're called Mountjoy, and he put me onto them. And they're like, when I'm hiking or when I'm up like in nature, like they just hit. And there's a song called "Rearrange Us" that I love. Second one, I think, and I actually just heard this. You might have played it, Jake, in the car on the way home from Boyne. "Snow Child" by The
Mm.
Weeknd.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
mm.
That's a good snow song for sure.
And then another. I mean, I know we're going with the snow vibes, but I have one called "Snow in July." I've got a whole playlist of skiing songs, and this is more of a chill one.
Send me
"Snow in
that. Send me that
July"
after
by
this.
Thomas VX. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
All right. Cool. So I kind of hit like a trifecta, and you guys talking about these has me thinking of tons more. But I went.
Cornfield Chase.
No, I went to start. I went concerning hobbits. So the Lord of the Rings song, Howard Shore. That's kind of how I'm gonna get started. Just like a subtle intro. You're at the top of the mountain, so you've got the most view of the entire scene around you, the whole setting. So concerning hobbits from Lord of the Rings, Howard Shore. Then we're gonna jump into a song that's kind of been more current. I mean, it's a couple years old, but My Eyes, Travis Scott. So it's got a very like mellow vibe in the beginning. So it kind of would, I think, concerning hobbits would flow into it pretty well. But then I imagine like this would be the part of the green where like it hits a little dip and you get some adrenaline going because it kind of transitions, and for like a minute and a half it goes in pretty good. And then the third one is I went like more reflective, like a song that could kind of like you're out in nature, you can have like kind of like a meditative moment. I went Streetlights by Kanye West. It's always been a really big one for me. Just kind of talking about like how life is unfolding and sometimes just like streetlights passing by. So those are my 3. But yeah, it's fun. When we went, Daniel, you were like, "Oh, dude, my AirPods broke. My right earbud broke, so I'm trying to figure out how to fix it." But you were like, "Dude, bring your AirPods. Like, listen to music up there's great." And by the time I was comfortable enough, we were going on blues and blacks, so I was like, "Yeah, no, AirPods are not the move. I gotta have full
Oh,
mental
bro,
focus."
I thought you were listening to music up there, dude.
No,
It
dude, that
elevates
was my
it.
second time, first time in 5 years or so, four
You
or
can
five
still
years. Like
think
I needed all focus.
all muscle memory, dude. You don't even need
Yeah,
you're
the
feeling it,
muscles
you know.
hadn't been worked to that yet. So, but definitely next time. Like there were a few that I'm like, okay, this green, I could listen to music on this. Like I feel comfortable now. But those
I ditched the helmet. I just was like full
yeah,
Sony's, like
it's great
safety out the
headphones.
window for the vibes.
Last thing on that, the skiing community, like the group of people who are out there, was a great group of people. I just gotta say, like the like honor code of like we just left our boots out there. You leave your skis out when you like go somewhere else, and just there's fire pits and people outside drinking beer and talking and good music. It was a great community. So maybe we can do a Chasing Wild adventure one day, do some skiing stuff,
Yeah, it's
Hell
my
get
yeah.
goal
everyone
to
out
take
there.
you out west, man. It's a different beast, and everybody out there is chill like that.
I love it. So do we have anything else? Do you guys any last thoughts? Do we wrap this up? Are we good? We're
Oh
we're
man,
hitting
I
the hour mark,
appreciate
so I think we're at a good spot.
appreciate you
Yeah.
guys having me on to pick your brains, and yeah, I had a great time.
Yeah, so
Likewise.
you're listening to the Chasing Wild podcast. Please make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow us. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you are. We're, again, a newer podcast. We're really trying to grow the community of just outdoor people who are outdoor adventurers, enthusiasts, care about wildlife conservation, all those things. So like it, share it with a friend. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. Daniel, thank you for being on today, sir. I know we will have you on more and more. I always wanted to do a podcast with you, so this is a good start to that, good primer. Did excellent. A lot of fun, but thanks for listening to the Chasing Wild podcast. Again, we are your hosts, Jake Johnson, Dean Dudzik. We will see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.